From the Dallas On Air studios in beautiful Dallas, Texas, this is Fulfillment right here on DallasOnAir.com. And now here's your host, the Vegabomber, PJ Dunn.
Welcome, everybody, to the Fulfillment Show. This is the first show of the new year. A lot of new things going on today, and we're going to talk about that. So what is the Fulfillment Show? Well, if you love movies, if you love talking about movies, if you love collecting movies, if you like talking about movies when everyone else is ready to move on to a different topic, then you have found the right show for you. So this is the first show of season 3, and here we are in 2021. And today, we're going to talk about the most anticipated films of 2021, our picks. And so with that, let me introduce some special people here today. Sitting to my right is John E Flix. Say hello to the people.
Hey, everybody.
Yes. And that big voice behind the camera you heard in the intro, that is Kazak.
Greetings and salutations, campers. Welcome to DallasOnAir.com.
Yes. So, first show, we're coming in here now. Johnny Flix, you guys have recognized a new face, and so Johnny actually loves movies as well, and so we're gonna talk about some anticipated films. So, aren't you glad 2020 is just done with? We're just finished.
Yeah, no doubt.
We keep trying to put it behind us, and yet it keeps on creeping back up.
What is it with 2020? It's just like Jason Voorhees; you just can't kill it. Just comes back.
Just need to let this go, man.
That's so true. So in 2020, so what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about some stuff. We've done our own little research to look at the films. We've seen some trailers about some movies that are coming out. And so our first segment, to get you started, our first segment of 2021 is the Just Seen It. And so the Just Seen It is just to give you an idea of some of the stuff that we've been watching just personally. Maybe you get a sense of what we like to pick and what we choose. And there's the sound effects. So I'll kick this off, and then I'm going to go to Johnny to see what he's been watching. And what I've watched was a series on Netflix, and you guys should be watching this. This is pretty good. It's called Manhunt: Deadly Games. And so season 1, they did a piece on the Unabomber, but season 2, they focused on Richard Jewell. This was exciting because I've seen the movie Richard Jewell, directed by Clint Eastwood, and I thought it was pretty good. But what you get with this series is you get beyond Richard Jewell. So the movie Richard Jewell focused on just obviously Richard Jewell, but here we get Eric Rudolph as well, the guy who really did do the bombing, and they go into that. So you get like 10 episodes of this. And so same thing, if you've seen the movie Richard Jewell, you already kind of understand, here's this guy overzealous about how he wants to do detective work. He actually was right when he found a bag that had explosives in it, but yet somehow the FBI found a way to say, that's the guy. He was just looking for some hero glory, and so he's the guy because they couldn't find Eric Rudolph, the real guy, and they didn't find him until 7 years after the fact. So can you imagine? So this series now touches up to what you saw in the movie, but it also says, let's look into the life of this Eric Rudolph guy, and who is he, and how is he able to evade the FBI for so long? And so here's what's surprising about it, Johnny. It was very honest about how it portrayed the FBI.
Yeah.
It showed them as being arrogant, not looking at certain things, ignoring good leads because they felt they had their man when they labeled Richard Jewell. I mean, isn't this crazy?
It really is.
But this is what you see, right?
Yeah. So the interesting thing to me, as much as I follow things like that,
Yeah.
I didn't know about that until you told me about it.
Yeah.
So that 7-year difference makes all the difference in the world to how everybody perceives it. So this is interesting that they're taking a look backwards at that and kind of correcting that.
Yeah. And I mean, in Richard Jewell's life, by the way, Richard Jewell was never arrested, but was just blown up in the newspaper as the Unabubba is what they called him, and all these other bad names. And they were just, and this is a guy who was innocent. And then once they proved that he was innocent, they still didn't apologize. They still didn't do anything. So people still think to this very day, if you watch the 60 Minutes that they did in retrospective, he's dead now, Richard Jewell, but he lived after that with people still thinking he was the man that blew up, you know, during the Olympics, the 96 Olympics, even though they caught Eric Rudolph way after the fact and it was known. So he was never really exonerated or told, hey, we're sorry we did this. and he had to live with that.
Could you imagine if that happened today, like right now?
Jeez. Right?
The way social media blows everything up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a great point. This is before social media, and he was being drubbed through the newspapers. They were just running with anything because, if it bleeds, it leads type thing. So if you like this sort of thing, I would say that this is definitely something that you should spend your time. It's called Manhunt Deadly Games, and you'll want to watch season 1 and 2, one on the Unabomber, which the Vision himself, Paul Bettany, is playing Ted Kaczynski. And then, of course, yeah, so you have to see it. And so it's a sleeper. This is definitely a sleeper. But Johnny, what have you been watching?
Well, I guess my favorite show for last year was Fleabag.
Okay.
And it ties into one of my anticipated films for this year.
Okay.
Because I found out about it because of it. It's written by Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Okay.
And she is the main character in the show. Her look at dynamics of relationships in that show is just phenomenal, and for people that like the Deadpool breaking that fourth wall are gonna love Fleabag too, because that's something she does very consistently in the show.
Wow.
It brings you into it and makes you feel a part of what's going on. And it's a British show. Seasons are very short. But phenomenal job with conveying the whole story.
Yeah. Fleabag, huh?
Yeah.
And it came out when?
It's been out for a couple of years. I think maybe 3 years, but I only watched the 2 seasons last year for the first time. Got my girlfriend into it, and she loved it as well.
Wow.
Really blown away. So
Sweet. Fleabag, huh?
yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. It's on. I caught it on Amazon.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Well, that's not bad at all.
Yeah, I actually saw the DVDs in Best Buy last week. So
Oh, yeah?
yeah. So you can grab the whole thing and take it home. So it's good.
excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Sweet. Well, and I know you saw Tenet. So
did
what were
see
your
Tenet.
did you where were you? People were either they weren't in the middle on this. They either liked it or they kind of hated it.
Yeah. Well, I will say it was the first movie I saw in a theater in a very long time. Right? So there was that,
Okay.
I thought it had a lot of excellent moments, and when you dig into continuity that deep, there's always going to be issues. You can't keep everything straight.
Right.
But that's part of the beauty of science fiction in the first place, right?
Yeah.
It's not reality.
Yeah.
So there's, we push ourselves and we push our ability to think about what could be. So you're always going to have little things that don't always add up. You have to give them some
Christopher Nolan.
leeway on that.
Yeah.
So, barring any of the little mistakes that people point out all the time, I thought it was a solid movie. I thought the cast was good. It was simple.
Yeah.
They kept it real tight, and I think that lended. I think that helped it stay in a very positive space.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so now that you've seen it in the theater, is this something that you've got to go back now and watch it again to pick up on all the Easter eggs? Because that's what I've heard.
Really?
That's a great question. I'm going to actually say yes.
Okay.
I actually would watch it again. I think it was I think it was good enough to watch again. However, I will say that I was picking up on a lot of those little details even the first time I watched it.
Okay.
And I love the fact that the score worked with the actual
Visuals.
elements of this,
Yeah.
the visual elements of it. They actually played it in reverse when things were going in reverse. I thought that added to the tension of it really well.
Nice.
I think
Yeah.
a lot of people overlook the scores.
Yes, they do.
No. It's a huge element of Nolan in and of itself.
For sure.
watching all those little things and details and that he gets into, that he draws you in. And like I said, it's good that in this one, because I think he kind of learned his lesson with Inception, is the fact that you can't conceal everything. You got to kind of, okay, I'm going to feed you a little bit.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, what he did so well with Memento, it's a kind of a failing in Inception. And it's I haven't seen Tenet yet, so like I said, it's good to hear that it's not so complex that you're not going to get most of it the first time, because you really want to enjoy it the second time around.
Very good.
Because that's definitely with Nolan. You want to enjoy that the second, third, fourth, fifth time around. You know?
Yes,
Definitely.
Yeah, that's a staple of a Nolan film right there.
Yeah.
His linear thought process, but being told in a non-linear way, is pretty exciting.
Right.
Yeah.
What have you been watching, K-Zag?
All right. So a couple weeks back, because I'm working with the Jedi Goddess crew again, we did an in-depth dive into Wonder Woman 84.
Oh.
Okay. So this was a movie, and it was fine. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but I mean, again, it's the problems that I have with the DC universe all over again.
Yeah.
The fact that you have everything is a MacGuffin in this film. Everything is just a MacGuffin. Just they just throw away the invisible jet. They throw away the tiara, and they absolutely throw away the secondary villain.
Yeah.
They throw away Cheetah.
Yeah.
I mean, she deserved her own film. You want a rival for Wonder Woman. I could have watched a whole hour and a half on that. You didn't need 2.5 hours of white women can't be friends. It was just bullshit. It was just absolute bullshit the whole way through. I mean, I didn't hate it. I just hated chasing MacGuffins for 2.5 hours. And it's such a long film. The plotting of itself, I could have been fine with the Max Lord whole thing. That would have been a great thing. But it suffered from Spider-Man 3-itis.
Oh my God!
It just you didn't need the secondary villain. I mean, it was just shoehorned in there, and you made her a MacGuffin too. It just doesn't make sense. It was trashing. Like I said, it hurt what could have been a more passable film. Like, give me 90 minutes of compact storytelling, filmmaking. Give me that over an overblown 2.5 hours of give me my life back. Because, like I said, the combat scenes were fine. I dug Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. I dug the dude as Max.
She was charming.
I dug Pedro Pascal as
the Mando himself.
Yeah. I dug the characters. I didn't dig the story.
Yep.
Everything from watching Chris Pine just gawk in awe over everything, and just
the reverse fish out of water story. Yeah, the first time
they literally looked like they were fish out of water, just gasping like wow, and. Oh, just Go ahead and get into the problems you got with this. We need to talk about this. Go ahead.
We do. So first of all, in an age and era where you have at least 6 to 9 superheroes movie coming out a year, there should be no reason for you to take 2 hours and 32 minutes to tell a story that pretty much most of us all kind of know what's going to happen. So what we're looking for is, can you give us a succinct, tight story that says, look, this makes sense that this person would do this. Not, hey, let's borrow an element from Batman and Returns, and an element from this of the jealous. I'm jealous of the superhero, which tells everybody, oh, here's going to be the villain right here, the person that's jealous of the superhero. I mean, we've seen that. It wasn't even done well. And then to expand the movie, this is why I say I will hate the movie, not because I hate Wonder Woman. I actually liked the first one. The third act was bloated. But to me, we've seen enough movies now. You get about 300 movies come out a year if you count the independent films and then, of course, the regular films that come out. So we've had several superhero films by now. Why do we have to always go back to Christopher Nolan, Dark Knight, to go back to the best superhero film? You have to keep going back to it, because no film to me has beaten that yet. And I know people thought the first Avengers was that way. But see, here's a chance, because it's Patty Jenkins. She did a great job on the first one, I thought. But here, I heard and read that she had most of the executive control of all this. So this is what she chose to put in here. And so then the logic doesn't make sense of it being a monkey paw, basically. And you can wish things. You could easily just wish I wish that you just died to the guy who's killing everybody. It'd have been over. But so I don't like the leaps of just, you just got to trust that everybody's going to kind of think the same way when they make their wish, and therefore we'll all wish for it to come right. Like the way they tried to make it come back to full circle, I thought that was just too sloppy and too easy.
Yeah, there's a lot of nonsense. Now, I will say what I liked is you went with an Alex Ross color palette on a whole bunch of it as a comic book fan.
Yep.
That was brilliant. That was a great play in the fact that you had, some brilliant skies and bright colors and things like that. You didn't make it a dark Zack Snyder filter piece of garbage.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it was well done. It was the composition in the film is really well done. It really is. The score is, fine. Just like I said, the movie was fine. It wasn't great. It wasn't, Suicide Squad terrible, but it was.
Or Birds of Prey.
It was not great. It was not great.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too you have to ask is why, with the continuity problems that you have here.
Yeah.
So why is this set in 1984? That's not clear. It could have been set in any time in the 80s, but judging by the way they were dressed. But it was just like you put 84 in the title, so now we're expecting, okay, what's this going to be around? And then you watch it and you kind of go, this could have been really any time in the 80s. Why was 84 so significant? Yeah. And then it doesn't fit into the time frame of what happened already, as we talked about earlier, before we rolled the cameras, folks, about, what about Batman v Superman? And what about all these other issues that now this kind of contradicts? Because at the end of Batman v Superman, she said that she laid low and she stayed out of, the public eye, but yet in this movie, she is in the public eye, and at the end, with her lasso of truth around Pedro Pascal,
she's knocking out
she's
security
broadcasting.
She's knocking out security cameras and things like that. Just
yeah, and it's just kind of like, but you're in a mall where all these people see you, and I also didn't like the CGI. I know that they were trying to do some Donner stuff, but Donner was doing the best he could do with what he could do then. Now, with all the technological advances we've had now. Yeah. When they tried to show Wonder Woman running fast, Johnny, it was ridiculous. I was like, that doesn't even look realistic at all. Yeah. And we've had more movies that have done that. And I get but they can always say, oh, but we were trying to do it on purpose because we were trying to hold up that aesthetic of, the 80s movies since we're trying to do that. I'm like, yeah, but we love CGI that's done well because we've had movies that show speedsters really well. X-Men, anybody? Yeah. Quicksilver? Come on. That was done well, and even the TV show Flash did better. But this one, you could just totally tell she was just running above the ground, and her feet didn't even look like they were hitting, and there were many other areas. But in the big fight with her and Cheetah, it was in the dark, you couldn't see, so they pulled a Black Panther in the last fight in Black Panther where they had them fighting in the mine cave to hide the bad CGI. You had that same thing here, and it was just...
Yeah.
It was horrible.
No, I haven't seen it.
Yes.
But already... he's talking about bright color palettes, and now you're talking about, hiding the CGI in the dark. That, that seems like
and this is
a big discrepancy right there already.
And this was not a film for me that I would have wanted to go see on a big screen. No. I mean, after seeing it, it was fine because I finally caved in and got the HBO Max. And it's fine.
They got him. HBO got him.
It's fine. It's fine to watch on the small screen because, again, a lot of these DC movies, they're TV movies. That's exactly what they are, and that's exactly what they're going to be.
Yeah.
So you don't need to go the extra mile and pay to see this on the big screen unless you want to see that big Alex Ross composition stuff. If you're a composition, scene guy, then go ahead. I mean, if you're a comic book guy, go ahead. But I mean, for me, it doesn't enhance it. I'm good on my, good HD TV. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
And that's all I can say about it. It was fine.
Yes. And that's pretty sad standard today because we should be getting better and better and better. And what's always interesting to me, and you hear me talk about this a lot, Kazak, is how is it that the CGI can get better? We can have more artists out there besides just Spielberg and Scorsese and Lucas. And yet we can't seem to get good story direction. We can't seem to get good pacing. We can't seem to get... So we got an overabundance of getting great at CGI when it's done well. But how come the storylines haven't gotten better? How come the plots haven't gotten better? How come we can't write a better movie? Now, the acting has gotten great. Like, I can't blame Pedro Pascal because look what he was handed to work with. Yeah. Right?
He was fine.
And he was fine. But knowing that he's way better than that and seeing him have to do mediocre... and turn mediocre up because the script is so mediocre when you know what he's capable of. And the rest of them, Kristen Wiig as well, you're just kind of going, So why are we shooting for mediocre and saying that that's okay just because we like the property of Wonder Woman? It's like, no, you should care about the craft of filmmaking, and it should be getting better, not worse. Right?
And again, that's the big flaw that I always find in the DC universe is that they go, if we got a movie out, it's passable. Don't watch it.
Yeah.
So on the note, you ready to move on?
I am. I think we've done that enough for everyone there so they kind of get the idea. So let's move into the main topic of today. And the main topic is we're looking at the most anticipated films. Now, to set this up before we throw it to Johnny first, is these are films, not that obviously we haven't seen them. So what we've done is we've either watched trailers or we've read the synopsis on them, and we've seen maybe some interviews with some folks who maybe are talking about the film. And so we're judging it from that. So with that,
All right, and we're going to go one at a time on these.
we're gonna go one at a time, go all the way around. We call it popcorn style. So we'll give you one all the way around. And so, Johnny, we're gonna start with you. An anticipated film for you in 2021 is?
My number one is No Time to Die.
Oh, tell me about it.
It's big franchise, James Bond. It's an interesting one because it's gone through so many evolutions over the years.
Yeah.
So many different actors playing James Bond. What I've really appreciated about the Daniel Craig era of James Bond, though, is not so much Daniel Craig himself, but the actual the stories being told have really returned heavily to the roots of the character of Ian Fleming's novels.
Yeah.
I thought they started off incredibly well with Casino Royale. That was almost 100% true to the novel. Excellent job with that. So I'm really interested to see No Time to Die because it's his final outing as Bond.
Daniel Craig.
It's that's a little hard to swallow. It feels like they've had lots of studio issues for years that held up movies, and now No Time to Die was supposed to be released last year, just weeks after the lockdown started, and so it's been postponed 2 or 3 times now. So definitely anticipating this one. They've got some great people returning in this one. They've got Rami Malek as an addition to this film. I think he's done some excellent work in Mr. Robot and as Freddie Mercury. I think we've got an excellent cast, and it'll be really interesting to see how they wrap up the Daniel Craig era.
Yeah. I mean, I'm interested in that. What about you, Kazek? What do you want to see in 2021?
All right, so my most anticipated film of the year, like I said, because I'm looking forward to hopefully going to go see this in a theater, and I definitely want to go see. I definitely want to go see Halloween Kills. I know that's a sequel, but what they've done, but what they've done with the franchise on this has been amazing. The last Halloween was absolutely stellar. What they did with Jamie Lee Curtis's character, what they did to advance the Michael Myers storyline, because they threw out all the garbage. They threw out just. Get it back to the Halloween story, and they absolutely did. They made the last one absolutely brutal, and with this one, it's really one that I'm looking forward to seeing because they're doing this as a trilogy. It's going to finally wrap up the Laurie Strode storyline. There's no garbage about the Ming sister. There's no garbage about the cult. It's getting rid of the nonsense that has been the Halloween franchise, which I think is absolutely made it troubled. This one is just basically going to be a really, really brutal Halloween film, taking it back to the Carpenter roots. Just absolutely what the guys did with it that got a hold of it, I think has been really, really impressive. And as a horror movie guy, like I said, because normally I'm content to watch these on a small screen. I want to go see this on the big screen because this is how I want to break my quarantine. Get me out of this to go see a good friggin' horror film.
Yes. And I'm hoping for that. I really am hoping for that. And I would say to that end, my number one actually is interesting. This movie's coming out here pretty quickly. It's coming out hopefully January 15th. And it's MLK FBI. So what this is about is this is based on the declassified files of Sam Pollard's the files he was able to get to help show how the FBI was all up in Martin Luther King Jr.'s business and how they were using a lot of tricks to try to tape him, record him so that they could try to discredit him because they really saw him as public enemy number one. They really saw him as a big threat, a domestic terrorist. Martin Luther King Jr., he got his own holiday, but he's a domestic terrorist back then as far as they know, and as far as they want to lead on to believe. So for me, with Martin Luther King Jr., the holiday coming up, and then, in February, you got the Black History Month that they traditionally do. I think a lot of people need to understand this part of the story because a lot of them understand his speeches. Right. And he's quotable and all that good stuff. And everybody quotes Martin Luther King Jr. when they want to talk about, unity. But people, what they don't know is, and this is maybe this is coming from me watching the Manhunt series, is how bad the FBI, once they decide that you're the problem, you're just the problem no matter what happens, no matter what evidence comes out. So I'm really interested in seeing how they show all the taps that they were putting on him, Hoover and all this sort of thing, and how they tried to break up his family and show him in such bad lights. Well, here's a guy that's trying to do something good, for the world, like Richard Jewell was trying to do something good at the park. So for me, number one, I can't wait to see this film. It's coming out pretty quickly here, so I'm excited. They got me. I will be there.
And this one is a documentary. This is not,
Correct.
They're actually showing, like I said, the actual footage and things like that. It looks like they've got James Comey putting in inference on intelligence and things like that. Mm-hmm. So that's a really interesting kind of take on it. Again, I've been reading kind of a book on the 60s and things like that, it's interesting to see how they tried to basically take down MLK a peg because all they really found is adultery.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
So it's really the only way that they could tear him down.
Yeah.
And so that's an interesting kind of look at the way of how they got the intelligence on Martin.
Yeah. And if you're willing to do this to good people, I really would like to see you use that same kind of energy when we have a really bad person rather than you saying, "Oh, it can't be him. We've already assumed that the person's profile is this." Right, which you can see is really it's dangerous that innocent people actually have to go through this kind of deal. So I think that might be refreshing. Yeah, Johnny, what else do you want to see in 2021?
Another big franchise for me, anyway, which is Dune. Love the novels. Frank Herbert was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Dune has suffered in film before. It's hard
Lynch.
It is hard to convey that the depth of the novels into a single film. And it's funny because I don't know if you recall this, but maybe 2 years ago, I told you I thought that Dune would do really well as an animated series like they've made with the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
I think that would be a fantastic thing. So what's got me really interested in this take on Dune is actually, seeing Timothy Chalamet, yes, thank you. In The King on Netflix, thought he did a really excellent job on that, and that kind of alleviated some of my anxiety over this new Dune. Having seen the trailer, though, it looks pretty promising. There's a couple of little things that people have been talking about that they don't really think are good changes to make. I don't think they necessarily impact the story, so I'm willing to give it a good shot. See how they handle the story itself. Be interesting. I think especially these days, with the way people are more engaged in current events, it'll be really interesting to see how political they get with this, because there's a great deal of politics and religion and economics involved in the story. So I'm really interested to see how that plays out in this film.
Yeah, Dune. Yeah, Dune is going to be something. I think I just hope that they stay true and then understand when to take liberties and when not to take liberties with it.
Yeah,
and they could have a masterpiece on their hand for all we know.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Photography does look promising from the trailer, so there's at least that. It could be beautiful.
And maybe you just get a beautiful film, and that's all you get. but I mean, you know, with it being such a complex franchise, it is curious to see what they could possibly do with this one.
Yeah.
So, because again, are you going? And no, Martin, we don't need you. Thank you. We don't need you speaking right now. Sorry. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. So what else?
All right. So for me, my next one is going to be, like I said, going back to franchises. Because again, when we go back to movies, I want to go back to familiar. And I've chosen Ghostbusters Afterlife. I'm a little trepidatious over those trailers. But the fact knowing that it is Jason Reitman, the fact that you've got Paul Rudd, you've got a solid cast, you've got a solid director and things like that, picking up where the original franchise left off. We're hopefully doing away from anything in that, Paul Feig monstrosity. That we're just basically getting it back to, a funny ghost story. And again, like I said, we're putting in the Midwest. We're advancing in years. Harold Ramis's character Egon is passed away, so like I said, we're seeing it being handed down to a whole new generation. And like I said, getting the kids from Stranger Things, Finn Wolfhard in there, it's promising. It's promising for a sequel, and it's promising for, like I said, a franchise which I absolutely love, and I want to give them one more chance. Yeah. And again, with Jason Reitman in that director's chair, I think it has a decent shot.
Okay. Yeah.
So, like I said, and you have, the guys signing off of it, Aykroyd and things like that, Bill Murray, Sigourney Weaver, all those folks coming back, putting their weight behind it. Like, okay, they've signed up on this one. Hopefully, it works. Give me a decent sequel, because, like I said, if you want my money, you've got to deliver for me.
Sure.
And like I said, now that we have decent CGI and things like that, there's a whole realm of imagination that we can go with. Because, like I said, the first one is a joy. Yeah. The second one is the third one has the opportunity to deliver based on the technology and based on a cast that knows a fine line between comedy and horror, and that it could be very, very funny. I really hope it works.
Yeah. No, this is one I'm probably not going to run out to the theaters to see, but I will be watching with interest, because I do hope the same thing, good stuff for the Ghostbuster, because I thought it was a fun movie when it originally came out, and I didn't care for some of the stuff that happened more recently when they made the crew all female and tried to play that kind of card, and I was just
it's just they were just cast members who I don't think are terribly funny for me, because like
Truly.
I'm not a big Kristen Wiig fan.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not a
Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah, Melissa McCarthy. Yeah. Just not a fan of her. It's comedy that I don't dig on. Yeah. And so, like I said, just it holds no interest. I mean, Kate McKinnon is, absolutely hysterical anytime she's on screen, but that's it. She's a 30-minute sketch in a 2-hour movie. Just no. So I have high hopes for this one. Yeah, because again, when it's one of the big franchises that my childhood was centered around, you've got to deliver for me.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, and so another film that I'm looking for in 2021 is a Denzel Washington movie. It's The Little Things, and so he's going to be in there partnered up with Rami Malek, and they're both going to be cops looking for a serial killer played by Jared Leto, which I'm willing to give him another chance after that Joker performance he did, and see if he, because I think he's a great actor. That just didn't hit right with Suicide Squad and what he did there. But here, I want to see what he does, and so you have the two cops that are going to go out and try to track down this LA serial killer, and apparently some things are going to come out about Deke, which is Denzel Washington's character, that's going to kind of compromise his good standing. And so it sounds like it's going to be a good, from that perspective, a little bit of a psychological thriller to say, you're just the other side of me, to coin type thing. So it should be interesting to see, and then just see Remy and Denzel together. That'll be fun to see them play off of each other. So that one's coming out January 29th. So these are movies so far that I've picked were January releases. Maybe I'm just that excited to get back to the theater. I don't know.
Are you going to theaters?
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay.
I'll go. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I said, they're not getting me in. So, like I said, it's got to be a big one to get me in there. So, yeah.
I got an idea though. I can film the stuff I'm seeing in the theater, and then I can put it online for you to watch.
Hey,
I
there
know
we
no
go.
one's doing that.
No, absolutely no one is doing that. Absolutely no one is doing that. Wink.
How about you, Johnny? What else do you want to see in 2021?
One that I just found out about is The Many Saints of Newark.
Ooh, tell me, I want to hear about this.
I was honestly kind of blown away by that. It is a look at Tony Soprano's younger days, and the character playing, or the guy playing Tony Soprano, is going to be James Gandolfini's son.
Yes.
And so that really blew me away. I mean, not many people can say that The Sopranos was not a very defining show.
Yes.
That was an excellent show, start to finish.
Before Breaking Bad, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So, gosh, I mean, there's a lot of room for them to do really great things with this. I hope they do well.
Yeah.
So, a lot of room to mess it up too.
But yeah, getting that cast, John Barenthal, Vera Farmiga, yeah, Junior, yeah, that's like I said, I have not. I'm glad I have HBO Max because I have not watched The Sopranos. I haven't. It's just one of those series that just got past me because I didn't have HBO for the longest time. So.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think it's only 5 seasons, right? They didn't do it that sixth season. Thank goodness.
Yeah, they definitely ended it on a high note. That was good. So.
I'd heard mixed information on that ending, though.
A lot of people don't like the ending, that's for sure.
But were you one of those?
It leaves you with questions, and that's I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. It's the show wasn't set out to answer that question in the first place. I don't think.
Okay.
So.
All right, and then we're getting a prequel on this anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, I actually think that kind of lends itself to this pretty well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's perfect. How about you, Zach? What else do you want to see in 2021?
All right. So my next one here, let me go ahead and bring up mine. It's going to be a little horror film, but it's going to be, like I said, it's one that I'm looking forward to because the plot just sounds absolutely batshit. And it's a film called Psycho Gorman. Okay. No one knows about this film because, like, it's one of those films that's going to get, just go exclusively Shudder, direct to streaming, things like that.
Yes.
But the plot is absolutely phenomenal. These two kids accidentally wake up an alien, and because they wake him up, they get control of him, and he's an absolutely psychotic killer. And he absolutely just hates these kids, but it's going to be absolutely brutal because he's going to have to now serve them as their dark protector from invading aliens. And I mean, just the gore factor is above all. It's you've got horror comedy, annoying kids, and just a really, really dangerous alien. Dangerous alien psycho killer who absolutely hates what he's doing because he hates that he's enslaved to these kids who have captured him. Wow! It's one that if you watch the promo on it, you're absolutely going to go, I must see this film because that's what got me. Just like, I know nothing about this. What is this? And I'm watching the trailer and I'm going, this hits every check mark for me because again, horror comedy, brutal gore, absolute comedy, and just an absolutely psychotic premise. For me, this is horror gold because all of it is what I want to see on a small screen.
Yes,
like I don't think I'd pay full price for it, but. You give me an afternoon on Shudder, and I'm gonna go. That's my movie. So give me something terrible, intentionally terrible, because for me that's amazing.
Yeah. No, that's what I've come to learn.
It's a film that it's a film that no one's seen or heard of, and it's gonna be phenomenal.
When do we expect that one out?
January 22nd. So it's gonna so it's right around the corner on this one.
Awesome. Okay, you've sold me.
Yeah, check out the trailer on it because it's phenomenal.
Well, I have another one, and this one actually is a comedy. So, and speaking to your Ghostbusters, I want to see Coming to America too. because for me, when I was watching the rise of Eddie Murphy,
Yeah.
you know, in the 80s, and from Saturday Night Live to the movies to his stand-up Raw and Delirious, and then seeing him with his good buddies Arsenio Hall and all these other actors that you find out later on got to do other movies, the Cuba Gooding Jr., these sort of folks. And so to me, that was a fun time watching that movie, Coming to America, the original one. And so I just got to see it again. And knowing that Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall played most of the characters, they were just a different makeup, doing the different things, playing all these different characters, was always amazing to me that they could do that. And then just the joke. So I guess they had Zamunda before they had Wakanda, I guess, in this case. But you got Eddie Murphy coming back. You got Sherry Headley, which is the woman he ends up, that's the love interest of Eddie Murphy in this one. James Earl Jones is coming back, and Arsenio Hall's coming back, and a list of others as well. So I'm like, this sounds like this could be fun again. I think we need a good laugh, and I think this was a great laugh. If you watch the original to get ready for this one, I think that might be something that you'll see a lot of people doing here pretty soon. It
It's
appears
such a defining comedy, man.
it is, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a comedy that still stands up if you can put apart the PC humor. It's like I said, when we watched it, it was still funny.
Yes.
and the comedy holds up. Eddie Murphy's phenomenal, and Arsenio Hall's phenomenal. And the story is a great movie.
All the quotes coming from it.
Of course,
That boy good. Sexual chocolate, you know, all that stuff. Yeah, that was great. Oh man, see, I'm already selling myself on. So I think the release date's supposed to be March 5th. So we'll see what happens. It had been released in some other places in December, I guess, maybe to try to meet some sort of criteria.
And again, like I said, I think it was one of the ones that were supposed to come out last year that were going to get straight to streaming because that's what it is, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So and this is going to be on Amazon, I think.
No, this is going to be in the theaters.
Okay.
Yeah, this is going to the theaters first.
Okay.
So we'll see. But I'm excited, so we'll see what happens. And it was the person who wrote it. Oh, the screenplay was written by Kenya Barris, and he's the guy that did Blackish, the TV show, and did some other stuff. So there's some writing credits behind it too that are probably pretty good too. And Sheffield and Barry Blaustein also helped him create that script.
So you've got some of the old crew coming back with a new take on it. Okay.
Yes, so I think that might be pretty good. How about you, Johnny? What else do you want to see in 2021?
This is one that just caught my eye the other day. The Green Knight. Hadn't heard about it before.
The Green Knight.
It's a look at Arthurian legends,
Okay.
but not directly at Arthur. So it's apparently looking at. Gosh, my mind's gone blank
Sir
at this
Gawain.
point. Sir Gawain. Thank you.
Yeah.
And watching the trailer is what got my interest. It looks like it's going to be a fairly dark and menacing film. Feels like it's going to have some heft to it.
Okay.
So that definitely looks interesting to me. I definitely like movies that delve into those types of archetypes and tropes. So that's. The trailer hit all the right notes for me. Let's say that.
Okay. And that's coming out somewhere in the spring, maybe just.
I think we had a summer release on this one.
A summer
I
release?
didn't
Okay.
even look at the date.
I don't think we've got a date yet, but yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, after did anyone see that Guy Ritchie King Arthur film?
Unfortunately,
I didn't get to see it. I was going to see it.
I love Guy Ritchie, but I've heard just terrible things about this one.
and I was looking at this, going, "Oh, please don't let it be another one of those." But and I love Guy Ritchie, but yeah, that was not was not a good one. No,
So this one looks.
this looks. Like I said, I like how dark it comes across.
Okay.
It doesn't look like there's going to be any silly humor to it or anything like that. Looks like it's going to look at. It does look like there's going to be a little bit of fantasy to it.
Okay.
And there is that element in the Arthurian legends.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
So, but you did see that movie, huh?
No, I haven't yet. I'm curious to see. I'm curious to know other people think of it, just because I heard it was so bad. It's just so terrible.
That's
and
consistent
one
with
of
what
those,
I've heard.
one of those, like I said, I'm influenced by public opinion on it because I'm an absolute fan of the director. But when it's Guy Ritchie, it's got to be a gangster film, or it's
And see,
or Holmes.
and see, that's the thing. Like, I watched it, and to me, it doesn't even come across as a Guy Ritchie film.
Okay.
It's that bad.
Oh.
Wow.
Oh.
Like, I love Guy Ritchie films.
Yeah.
It just it doesn't play well.
Okay. All right.
By you, KZ?
All right. So my next one, I have certain directors that when I hear about that they're doing something, I'm instantly going to go, I'm in. You know, just no matter what. And one of those guys is Wes Anderson. And the next one that we're getting is a film called The French Dispatch. This is basically his love letter to journalists. You have, you know, just his. It's going to be multiple stories of journalists, you know, putting in dispatches from all around the world. You've got Frances McDormand, Tilda Swinton, Adrian Brody, Benicio del Toro, you know, telling stories about paintings and telling stories about invasions and things like that. Just again, it's one of those Wes Anderson films that tells multiple stories and things like that. So you're getting multiple layers, and you've got Bill Murray as the cranky editor. Just everything that, you know, if you like the Wes Anderson universe of filmmaking, this is going to be another one of those that I'm right there, because it's again, the way he tells stories is charming. The way that they come across on screen is charming. And these are films that are always visually interesting.
Yes.
Because whether you like him or hate him, you can always say that a Wes Anderson film is visually interesting, giving that retro feel, giving the pacing of the actors, giving the framing that he does. All of it, it's an interesting way of making films, and that's what I like about him. Like I said, you know, for some, it's, you know, it goes too far in the chins, it goes too far in the tackiness and things like that. But for me, like I said, it's just like, okay, this is something different that I'm not seeing, and I want something different. I want something visually interesting. And with this, I think we're going to get another really fun and interesting story.
See, I'm good with that.
So yeah, French Dispatch.
I'm good with that. I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah.
The great thing about these shows is I get to go back and watch them and say, oh yeah, that's what he said. He said that. Go watch that film. Go watch that film, since I'm not taking notes right now. So another one I did pick for myself also a horror film, if you will, and that is A Quiet Place 2, because I did like the first one, actually, with Krasinski and Emily Blunt. And what I liked about it was the idea that, okay, we're going to take sound and turn that way up by turning it all the way down, right? So in the first Quiet Place, the earth has been ravaged by these creatures that if they have super tuned hearing, and if they hear you, they come and they kill you. They destroy you right off the bat, right? And so in the first film, you're seeing this family. You're introduced to a family, which it's John Krasinski playing Lee Abbott, and his wife is Evelyn Abbott, played by his real wife, Emily Blunt. And they have 2 kids, and she's pregnant with a baby. And so they've basically learned how to track through the house. They know where the squeaky boards are and all that stuff, because the hearing of these extraterrestrials is so sharp they can hear a pin drop. So imagining, how do you live in a world where you can't make any sound, because if you do, these extraterrestrials, and they're fast. Not only do they have super hearing, but they're super fast. And so you have this great story packed in where you have this daughter that's a little bit rebellious to the dad and the son, and she's also got a hearing problem, and he's trying to communicate to save her life because she doesn't understand about noises in some places. And then the young boy just wants to play because he's a boy. So imagine you're a dad, you're trying to keep the kids safe, and your wife is pregnant, right? I mean, she's going to have a baby, which she does. And so the idea that everything's turned down, when you go to the theater, when you see this in the theater, what happens is the sound, you start to become aware of every sound going on in the audience, right? People chewing popcorn, you hear it, because in the movie, they're all going, and they're doing this sign language to let each other know one of them is close. You have to stay super still and don't move. So to keep that tension is pretty difficult, but they do it. And then by the time they do the reveal of the creature, I didn't think that was too bad. It looked a lot like some of the creatures in Stranger Things, but they didn't just throw it all away in the third act and you go, oh man, you built such great tension. I felt like they actually resolved it well. And I won't tell you what happened in the first. That's the first one. So this is just part 2. You add Scarecrow, Cillian Murphy in this, and Djimon Hounsou, who should have played Black Panther if they'd have filmed Black Panther earlier, because I think he would have been a great Black Panther too. Happy with Boseman, but if this had been filmed earlier when Hansen was younger, he'd have been a perfect Black Panther. But I want to see what those two guys are going to add to this as they now continue to try to move across the land because they don't know how many of the extraterrestrials are there. How do they decide to move from one area to the next area without giving away their position for these things to come get them? So I'm interested in that, and I want to see that. So, and it was a film also that would have come out last year, but because of COVID, then it didn't. So now I'm excited about it. John, what about you?
My last one is Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
Pinocchio.
And that's interesting because apparently he's been telegraphing that for several years now, but apparently Netflix has picked it up and is actually getting produced. Believe it's going to be animated.
It's CGI Pinocchio, but everything else you have live actors, Roberto Benigni, things like that. But a lot of it is going to be CGI live action.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. Well, there's two different Pinocchio films
Yeah,
coming out.
Yeah, this one. No, this is the 2019 with Roberto Benigni.
Yeah. So I think it'll be interesting. From what I understand, it's going to be not a Disney-fied film, so more accurate to the original story, a little more terrifying from what I understand.
The dark fable telling.
Yeah,
Oh.
and that interests me because I like having very clear good and evil. I think it's good for storytelling. And when you have things that are too gray, it becomes uninteresting.
Yes.
You know? You've got to
Zack
have
Snyder.
Yeah, you've got to have a defined evil. You've got to have a defined villain. Otherwise, it's just everybody's personal feelings, whether they do something or not. There's nothing driving people forward.
Yeah.
So,
Pinocchio.
yeah. I think that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was getting it confused because you've got the live action Roberto Benigni one, but you've also got this one, which is going to be full CGI, and you've got on that cast Cate Blanchett, Ewan McGregor, Christoph Waltz. So yeah, the phenomenal cast.
Yeah.
So okay.
Yeah. What else, Zach? What else are you looking forward to
All
in
right.
2021?
So my last one on the list, and let me go ahead and get to it. Where are you? All right. So again, one of those directors where if you hear they're involved, you're right in. And the next one that's coming out is going to be Edgar Wright's Last Night in Soho. Again, with this being an Edgar Wright project, they're keeping it real close to the chest, but it's kind of a different kind of Edgar Wright story in the fact that you have a British girl who goes back in time and back into the 60s on revolving around fashion, things like that. But again, with Edgar Wright, the way he tells a story, it's just interesting because again, you've got stuff like Baby Driver, you've got the whole Cornetto trilogy, things like that. With this, giving him, kind of a way to get around time and things like that, I'm curious. Just because I love the way Edgar Wright tells action. I love the way he develops character, but now I want to see, like I said, how he now deals with narrative stories and how it affects it. So I know nothing about the film other than the basic details of the plot, but yeah, I'm in whenever I hear that director being mentioned.
Wow. Yeah, so that's what we call the guilt by director association. And there's the guilt by actor association, too.
Yeah, but again, you knew nothing about Baby Driver, nothing about it, but when you saw it, like, holy God, that's an amazing film.
Yeah, Baby Driver, yeah. It makes people wonder what he would have done with Ant-Man other than the version that we got. You know? Makes people wonder.
Yep.
Well, my final film that I'm looking forward to in 2021, and by the way, I'm open to hearing other things that do come out later. This is just what I know right now, but I actually want to see this, and this one's called Judas and the Black Messiah. So this is a biographical drama, and one of the producers on it is Ryan Coogler, who did Black Panther and a bunch of other films that I love, and it's got Daniel Cuyé in it, who was also in Black Panther, who played Black Panther's best friend, he's in it playing a real Black Panther, Fred Hampton. And so this movie is about how they paid one guy, William O'Neill, to go in and infiltrate the Black Panthers so they could find out their movements, what they were talking about, so that they could go in and kind of do to them what they were doing to Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X before. So I'm very interested because no one's ever taken this from the side of, okay, let's find out what it must have been like to be William O'Neill, knowing that you're playing a traitor, the Judas, this is perfect in the title, to Fred Hampton. And so Fred Hampton was a guy, if you don't know, was killed by the Chicago police. They shot 20-something thousand times, and it seemed like, into his room at night because he was talking about what was happening on the West Coast with the Black Panthers, and he was understanding that, hey, listen, we got some problems here in Chicago too. It isn't just a West Coast or a Southern thing with the corruption of the police and this sort of thing. And so he was gaining. He was one of those people like Malcolm X, like Martin Luther King Jr., that was gaining a voice because then when he spoke, people listened. So he had that gift of being able to stand up and decree and say things. And so because he was a Black Panther, they said, oh, we got to silence him. And they found a way.
And it was a total frame up too, because the
Total
FBI
frame
said they fired on us. Like,
no. Yeah. And so all it took was for people to go in and take a look at the establishment and see how many bullet holes there were in the bedroom wall. So it's like, if he fired back, well, where did his bullets land? How come there's no evidence at all anywhere in the house? So they just went in, they took him out, they saw him as public enemy number one, and so he had to be somebody that needed to be silenced. And so I'm glad to see that they're going to actually cover this. Yeah. And it's interesting to see that they're going to cover it from the guy who I'm pretty sure felt like crap after he gave all that information and it wound up to his death. So
because they knew exactly where to find him, how to find him, like literally like a diagram drawn out of where his room was.
Yes, they had all of that. So it was no mistaking that was doing him in. So that comes out in February during Black History Month, February 12th. So I'm excited that these folks are still coming out, wanting to continue to tell these stories because people need to hear them. You know?
Sure.
They need to know, and it's not just the cleaned up version. We need to see all sides of it, So that, my friends, would be our most anticipated films from what we know so far for 2021. So what are yours? Write in the comment section below. Let us know what are some films that you're looking forward to. If we miss some that you think we didn't talk about here, put it in the comment section. You'll find that on the Vegabomber Live as well as Dallas on Air Live, and of course the video channel on YouTube, Vegabomber, and you'll find out more. Until then, we're going to talk about what we're going to do next off camera. But until then, what we're going to do now is we're going to send you out with a shout out. So, Johnny, who do you want to send a shout out to? And thank you for being here on the first show. Let's talk about that too.
Gosh, I don't know who I would give a shout out to. Maybe just my kids. They enjoy getting to watch movies all the time. So
yeah,
it's always a good thing.
That's very cool. How about you, K-Zach?
I do want to go ahead and shout out our compadres on our alternating Sundays, which of course Cole Houston. We bring you the Rancourt Pit and Isle of Toys next Sunday. I do also want to shout out my folks in the Jedi Goddess crew, who, like I said, I'm getting back involved in them, doing reviews with them. So you can find that on JediGoddess.com, and of course subscribe to her stuff. And you'll find we just did a rating of the 1977 film House, which is, again, more bad shit to get into. And of course, we do want to shout out Jansen Ray and Catherine Chinsky, the owners of this station, who, like I said, a very successful run with Very Spidey Christmas. If you donated to that, thank you very much. And of course, shout outs to DallasOnAir.com. Find more interesting shows here. You can check out Sports Talk and, of course, the Rancourt Pit. Check out our friend Eddie Medina on Figments Beyond the Explained Mysteries podcast and his new show, Fan and Wife. Like I said, all good stuff. Find that here on DallasOnAir.com.
That's right. And my shout out's going to go to Brandy and Barry Austin. They've been watching for a long time. We thank you for that. Sean Presley, Lauren Wiedauer, Tristan Fraser, Harry Thomas, Troy Ross, Mad Mel, and of course our fellas, Jedi Cole and Eddie Medina for sure, Stephanie Crane and Scott Laney and Sandra. So that will be the show for this time. We are every second and fourth Sunday of the month, so that means the next show will be January 24th. And I want to just say thank you to John E Flix for being here. As you guys know, the Film Samurai did his last show with us last year in 2020, and so we were scrambling and trying to figure out who else do we know who loves movies as much as us, and it turns out he was right in plain sight for me. So John E Flix, thank you for coming out and just giving us your stuff, man. We needed it.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. So with all of that, we're out. We'll see y'all next time.